As per the Darwin's theory of evolution, we actually survive because of two things. Number one is adaptability. Number two is intelligence. But an intelligent man would not fight. Intelligent man would like to live peacefully, would like to die happy. So what made us fight? It is the side effects of this evolution that also give us two more traits. One is greed, and number two is arrogance, the arrogance of power. The mankind will not stop. When it actually became the leader of all the animal planet, it started fighting with each other because the lust of power will not go. And its lust of power, there becomes two sides. One side is what I call an enemy, to the peace maybe, and the second side is an adversary, which wants to still live happily. So what happens after this? We created a lot of deterrence, and that is why we stopped this war. So which is not a static, but a dynamic equilibrium between the intelligence of the enemy on one side and the ability to survive of the adversary on the other hand. But this counterintelligence creates such a stockpile of so dangerous material that it's just a live away. But the enemy will also not remain idle. That's an intelligent species after all. So what it will do, it will take its next step. It will become invisible or anonymous. And how will you fight an anonymous enemy? You have to adapt. You have to use the basic traits that bring you and have made you survive so long. So instead of fighting the war at the borders now, you are now fighting the wars within your country. You made up your intelligence services so smart that they can detect an attack much before it happens. You have made beyond intelligence, beyond the special security forces that can find it. So the enemy has to respond. How it will respond? It will take the next step. It will also become invisible now. With this power of anonymity, invisibility, and the human basic traits of intelligence, survivability, coupled with greed, this is what havoc you can create. This is the evolution of cyber threats that we have seen. Why cyber threats? Number one, you can do it from anywhere, and we believe as humans that power is within us. We don't require nations to fight for us. One man can bring down the entire army. This is the figures from IMF. These are official figures sometimes back. These are the figures of that time when the Brexit was the highest. Still at that point in time, the risk planners didn't believe that Brexit is the complete risk to the economy or the world in general. They believe cyber attack is the highest risk. If you see the growth rate as well, the growth rate of the cyber attack risk is much higher, at least at the perception level. The second thing, which is actual and not perception, is the risk modeling of these comings from it. If there were a cyber attack, it would wipe out the complete banking system, whereas other stacks still we are become resilient to it. So if the complete battleground and the way has changed, let's identify what are the weapons that is being used for this particular warfare. What you see here is the evolution of malware. The first two are called the first generation malware. The second one is called the second generation malware or the advanced malware, or also called a metamorphic malware. The first two uses encryption, which means that if a file is there, now you cannot understand that file. So your software will not work on it because this is encrypted. But oligomorphic malware is simple. I cannot understand the contents of the file, but I can take a hash of it and compare the hashes. This becomes very difficult in oligomorphic. So in oligomorphic, I will have different hash keys, and with every attack, the hash key or encryption key would change, which means the hash value of the file itself will change. You can't neither access the file, nor you can match its hash now. But still, there are a lot of dynamic analysis and machine learning that we have actually come to this age that we can prevent this type of attack. But what is very difficult to attack is the metamorphic malware, which is the second generation or the advanced. Why it's called metamorphic malware is because it mutates, like X-Men. It mutates and it changes its signature. The very code inside changes. New codes come, old codes goes. So it's like someone with the intelligence is creating it. But fortunately, this requires a lot of effort, a lot of human intelligence to actually make such a code. Like army of developers, if not like one very passionate developer to create it. So if this is our weapons, what is the defense that we have? It's easier to make a ballistic missile that can fly at the speed of Mach 5 or Mach 7 with nuclear weapons and hit a country. It's very, very difficult to build a counter weapon which can fly at a higher speed and intercept it very, very accurately. And that is a problem that cyber defense researchers face. It's easier to create the malware, but very, very difficult to actually identify and detect that malware. But the way deep learning has come up, we have done a very phenomenal job in trying to avert a lot of malware that could have created problems. I represent BitsPlani, and we have a very small lab in BitsPlani, Goa, who is involved in this type of research. We have formed very new architectures for deep learning and new models, which at least for the limited data that we have access to, we have proven these are the best, and no, or at least very few malware can actually bypass it, which is the best results in it. So if you had an impression of Goa that people go there to dive deep, this is actually what it is. And by the way, as any self-respecting researcher, I will not leave this opportunity to beat my own trumpet. These two books were some of my previous writings during this period. And the theme of beating my own trumpet continues. My another book, but this time on deep reinforcement learning. This completely follows the evolution where we are going now with artificial intelligence. The technologies that we talked about, advanced predictive analytics, deep learning, is essentially not artificial intelligence. Machine learning is a very big subset. Academically, artificial intelligence is that subset of that machine learning which acquires human-level intelligence, not just human-level sensory organs, not just human-level computation. It also requires human-level intelligence. That is what is being driven by this technology, which is called deep reinforcement learning, which is a combination of deep learning and reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is, in short, a technology in which you make agents which can think for themselves. You just give them very broad level goals, similar to what an employee will get from his company. These are the KPIs. I want to just become the best industry or best company in this particular sector. How do you achieve your goal is completely your problem. So at times, we ignore the CSRs and do some things that we shouldn't have done. Same thing could happen to agents. Now, the agents are thinking much beyond what we wanted them to think, but they are just following the commands that we had, or the wishes that we have, or the fancies that we have. For example, winning some games. We started with AlphaGo. Even before that, Watson was there, but Watson actually was slightly different from the deep reinforcement learning paradigm that we are talking about. Then we have the Go-To, then we have the Dota, which requires a lot of visual interpretation and strategy making. Recently, it has also solved the Rubik's puzzle. What is the end game? End game is to actually simulate human mind and go beyond. Where are we in simulating human mind? We have so far simulated a fly's brain. A fly brain contains around hundreds of thousands of neurons of that order. A human brain contains hundreds of billions of neurons of that order. And we have exactly replicated each and every neuron of a fly brain. So you can imagine how far we are in replicating a human brain. And if this is the growth rate, and we know in technology what does this growth rate exponential, because the evolution of the technology and the computational power is exponential. These are not very far that we'll actually create something which is more intelligent than us. It is always illustrated by some of the researchers and many of the knowledgeable people that artificial intelligence will be the last thing that the humans will create. Because after that, the speed of creation will become so fast that these agents could itself create new things. And then the creation or the innovation by humans would be just like a minuscule to a larger set of creation that is possible. This is essentially because of 4 reasons. The first reason is the speed at which the neurons or the electricity between them could transfer. So when we are talking about a computational layer, the computational signals in that passes through at the speed of 1.5 into 10 to the power 8. Sometimes that is higher, maybe 2.5 into 10 to the power 8. Whereas for the biological neurons, the maximum speed clocked till date is 500 meter per second. It's average around 200 to 250 meter per second. The brain doesn't work alone. It works with your sensory organs. The latency between your sensory organs or the speed at which the signal transfers from the actual reception of the sense to the brain is around 2 to 5 meter per second. If you compare that with 1.5 into 10 to the power 8, you can understand where we are going. The second thing is about the physical infrastructure, physical space itself. The human brain is just 2% of a complete mass of a body, and a very small space. But whereas the computational power, the deep learning rigs, it can occupy rooms and rooms. In fact, I do not even require a real estate now. I can just go to a cloud partner, and the people who are specialized for it can actually take acres of land and do it for me. The third reason is the energy itself. For an average male, we take around 2,400 kilocalories. of which the brain on an average consumes 20% power of it, which translates to around 23.1 watt of electricity or the power that the brain consumes in a day. Compare that with your PCs and your graphics card. The average graphics card these days, the better one, is around 250 watts of DDP. The fourth reason is the motivation. All the things that make us great also make us weak. We require a lot of motivations to work. The whole night I was just thinking whether I should be preparing for this talk or I should meditate. I've prepared, I didn't meditate well. Okay, so coming to the next thing. So what if these agents become so intelligent that they can actually take the role that humans are trying to do? Or what if the humans that have created it give them just one simple objective, create so many metamorphic malwares, an army of X-Men that could just go and attack a nuclear installations? In fact, I was going to replace this nuclear installation with stock market, but I thought that still be with an intelligent person. No intelligent person would do it in the current state of economy. So I put this nuclear installation. So the deterrence that the human client created or the adversaries created against the enemy, the same deterrence would be used against them by the enemy now. This is the potential of this. How is the future so far in ahead? No. On the left-hand side, what you see is a reinforcement learning agent of the types that is being used in the current set of games that you hear about, AlphaGo and other things. The technology now has advanced a lot. And using some of the more advanced technologies, now someone has come up with a system that can actually create a metamorphic malware. What you see on here are the training curves of it. You see a gradual upward slope, which means that as the time progresses, these agents have become smarter. So far, we are not seeing an eclipse. What you see bottom is the probability of the benign that they have converted a malware to. So they take a malware and they keep transforming it. They extract the opcodes out of it, disassemble it, and then they reassemble the opcodes and make a real file. And then they try to check, is it a malware now? And then they keep trying new ideas on that. These ideas are so rampant that even they cannot be compared with any human malware developer. So what do we do? Have we created a terminator for ourselves, which is in the form of the obfuscator of files, changing the opcodes? And if so, what is the defense against it? And like any ingenious researcher with a lot of fresh ideas, we always look upon movies for the researchers. So we cannot compete with these AI agents, so why not create one of our own who would fight for ourselves? And the whole objective that we will give it to him is defend us at whatever cost, at whatever solutions that you arrive at. Fight with the adversaries, and you can only fight it because it's an artificial intelligence agent. So create an AI adversary. How far are we in creating it? We are very close. In fact, the previous work that we showed you was from our labs. Now, what is a cybersecurity lab? It has business to create malwares. As a cybersecurity researchers, I believe that the greatest illusion that we have is that whatever we have created, it was created for the first time. It may be true for other fields where people who create it try to claim it, publish it, or drive it commercially. But in cybersecurity, if someone is trying to publish it, do it direct commercial dealing, probably they do not intend to actually use it. They are adversaries, not the enemies. So where do we stand today? We believe that the best malware or the best cybersecurity attacks are not the ones that creates the maximum havoc, maximum panic, but are the ones that we do not even know they exist today. And that is why we are creating those type of malwares such that we have enough data to create these type of adversarial artificial intelligence. Because it would be foolishness or utter extra confidence to think that we are the first one to do it. And if it is so, the adversary or the enemy AI agent already exists. And now we want to make the adversary AI agent very smart, so smart that it can defend us with that one objective. So right now with the pitch that I had given, it may look like that the adversarial AI agent is a fighter, a warrior, that the whole job of that is keep fighting. It's not so. Adversarial AI intelligence is a technology. The first form that you saw was that motivation of an opponent, but we have two more forms, the critic and the dismantler. When I was a child, I learned playing chess from my father. I would get defeated by him every day and night. Still, that interest will not go. And with every game, he will tell me where I was weak, why he was able to defeat me. One day came when I defeated him. And since then, it was not one-way traffic. Whenever I'll defeat him, I'll tell him how I was able to defeat him. Whenever he defeats me, he tells me why I was able to defeat me. And that improved both of our games. That made us more intelligent in the game of chess. That is exact example of Critic. What is a dismantler? We talked about Neuralink. For the people who know, Elon Musk has a new venture, or the new ideation at this particular stage, which is Neuralink. He wants to connect a human mind to an artificial intelligent system, such that we understand what's happening inside, we control it. I do not want to take it to the level of controlling it, because we have seen when we start controlling things what happens. But I envisage one future that we should be able to understand AI agent, what's happening inside it. Much of this, since it comes from deep reinforcement learning, and deep learning itself is a black box, the actions or words of the agent itself is black box. We cannot understand it. But can we create another agent that can understand that agent and explain it to us? That is the idea that behind dismantler. You can also call it a translator. And the first example that I took is from my research world. The next two examples that I'll be taking is from my professional world. So I represent a company which is a Gartner acclaimed client customer in Magic Quadrant, which for SAS, software as a service for IIoT or Industry 4.0. And why we are cool vendor? Because we play with a lot of new and inventive views of AI. What the image that we show over here is that of a self-driving car. A survey was conducted in Germany some time back to understand what type of autonomous car people would buy. One clear verdict that came from that survey is that people who buying it would rather prefer the car to take care of their safety at the cost of other safety, the pedestrian safety if there's a collision or conflict of interest. Isn't it a clear conflict of interest for the manufacturers or the OEMs of this car? We do not know. It looks like a conflict of interest. Whether it will convert into some rules inside the AI agents, we do not know. Are we supposed to know it? These are very important. Not only important for us as consumers, but even more important for the legislators who make laws for us to decide whose problem it is. If there is an accident, who should be blamed? For the policymakers, whether to let them allow them to make autonomous cars, let them drive it with the normal cars, let them drive all the autonomous cars together. This is a matter of policy. Then we have also a matter of insurance. If suppose an accident happens, who pays the claim of it? Are these people intelligent enough of this technology to understand what is happening with the agent? We as researchers also sometimes do not understand what's happening. How can we explain them? And that is why we have come up with this idea that this agent recommendation, which is called situational awareness, by the way, will actually assess different types of autonomous car algorithms. And we'll try to see what is the strength of each, what is the weakness of each, where each of them may actually create a problem if we actually pose them with specific conditions. So basically what we're trying to understand is not the objective function, but the underlying behavior of what the agent has learned to complete that objective function, which is the intelligence that it applied to fulfill that reward criteria. This is another example that I could quote. This one is for the dismantler. I go to multiple industries to solve their maintenance problems. In IoT, it's very typical that you'll find hundreds, maybe thousands of sensors. Each sensor would be giving you data at a latency of, say, some milliseconds, maybe some 5 seconds, which means that you will have GBs of data of thousands of sensors. How would you analyze that? Technology has evolved. We are intelligent. We apply a lot of deep learning to it. But what's the side effects of that deep learning? If you apply something which is not 100% accurate, and no machine learning till date could be 100% accurate if it's actually doing a machine learning and it's not a simple rule, could predict anything 100%. And at the volume of data that is coming, it's just a multiplication of your error and the volume of data that will get false alarms. The second very important question is whom you are making this technology for and what is the purpose? Do you want to help that maintenance engineer at the job floor, or do you want to replace him? If I want to replace him, this is the perfect way I should go. But what if I want to help him? Can I explain him the black box? Why a prediction from a very complex machine learning or a deep learning algorithm predicts a failure of a particular machine? This is exactly what the dismantler do. The dismantler breaks down the intelligence of a very complex algorithm or an AI agent and brings it in a very simple format that the specialist could actually understand. Maybe you and me cannot understand, but the person who is with that machinery and he sees that the individual sensors are being predicted at this particular level. This is the first order interaction of the sensors. This is the problem. This is the second order interaction of each and every sensor. This is the problem. And now agent is actually moving these sensors in a way so that it aligns them in the order of importance. That may not capture 100% of the intelligence of the key or the main AI, but at least it will give us very good insights to improve our own game, our own understanding of our own domain. If this thing looks trivial, just apply it to your medical world. I know that a cancer has been predicted for a particular patient. I'll give him the radiotherapy. What if the person doesn't get a cancer? Will that radiotherapy still be good for him, benign for him? Maybe not. So should we understand what the agent is predicting or the algorithm is predicting before actually going by it? This is the work of dismantler. So in summary, I would like to say that people often confuse between causation and correlation. They say there's a very high degree of correlation between great power and great responsibilities. I differ over here. I see a confounding variable, and that confounding variable is great answerability. Great power would tend to great responsibility only if from your end you apply great answerability. Can we start asking each company that we come across who develops AI products want us to consume AI products? Can we ask one simple question? Does your AI has an adversarial AI built into it? And if not, who takes the risk of any wrong things that comes from this AI? I often believe that the best questions are not the one that gets the smarter answers, but the ones that invoke thousands of thoughts. Even if the thousands of thoughts could translate into very little action, but some action in real time. And my question for the day is, what came first for humans? It is the power to adapt, or it is the intelligence. It is imminent, undeniable, irrefutable, that will not remain the most intelligent species. We can believe so, but that's not going to be the true. If the prior is true, which means that our adaptability leads us to our intelligence, which made us survive, then we can still tie on to our adaptability. We can adapt ourselves to lead to this change of adversarial artificial intelligence for every real artificial intelligence that we create that can ensure our survival. But if that happens, we will not be there because we will not be intelligent enough. We were never the first adaptable and will not be survive there. So that is my submission for the day. Thank you.